Hello, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are listening from. I am so sorry, but our moderator is having a bit of technical issues. Basically, Good afternoon, good evening. Her internet is giving her some issues. Uh, so can you please stay on the webinar for a few minutes before she joins? I I have some hope that she'll resolve it in few, let's say 2 minutes. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, hello. Please, a show of hands if you can hear me. Okay, so I'm very, very sorry everyone for starting at this time or starting late. This is basically to some of you guys your introduction to Gambia because we do have one of the worst internet connections in the region, I would say. And since we're talking about, international, navigating international market expansion, I guess this is your first introduction to it because I'm guessing one of the first things that, investors or any other business owner who would want to expand in Gambia would be facing is the internet basically and how terrible it is. But without further ado, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on international market expansion, navigating the Nigerian and Rwandan market. I am Zainab Sise, and I have the distinct pleasure of moderating today's session. This event is organized by Tech Hive Advisory Africa that has its headquarters in Nigeria. And they're currently in Rwanda right now. And again, this is the best, these are the best people to talk to about a topic like this because they have expanded to Rwanda from Nigeria. And I'm so excited about the insights um, that they're going to be bringing to our attention today, as well as CM Advocates Rwanda, which is one of Rwanda's leading law firms. And, we are very, very thrilled to have an esteemed panel of experts with us today who will share their insights and experiences on expanding into these dynamic African markets. So today's session basically aims to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of the opportunities and challenges that are associated with entering the Nigerian and Rwandan markets. So today we are going to explore some key regulatory requirements, market dynamics, cultural nuances, as well as strategic entry points to equip you with the knowledge needed for successful international expansion into these two regions. So I would love to so basically the rationale behind this webinar is to address this increasing interest in international market expansion. So because now we're specifically today focusing on Nigeria and Rwanda, both countries we believe present unique opportunities, but also come with their own set of challenges. Now, without any further ado, I would love to introduce our two panelists for today, and these two are experts in their field respectively. And I am really, really excited that we're going to be hearing from them today, and they're going to tell us really, really exciting things about these two markets. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Miss Joanne Mutesi, an associate at CM Advocate, as well as our second panelist, Mr. Oguntunde Olorunjoba, policy analyst for Tech Hive Advisory. You're welcome, Ms. Joanne and Mr. Oguntunde. Please introduce yourself for the benefit of our listeners, and we can just kickstart.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olorun Joba Oguntunde, like Zainab said, and I do magic or I perform magic at Tech Hive with the rest of my team, where we provide advisory services to tech and traditional companies around Africa. Yeah, and I'm happy to be here today to discuss and explore market expansion in Nigeria and Rwanda with you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Magician. I'm really excited to hear what you guys have done in Rwanda so far, and what you have in store for us with, your expertise and everything that you have learned along the way. And Miss Joanne Mutesi, please introduce yourself for the benefit of our listeners.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Zain. My name is Joanne Mutesi, an associate at CM Advocates, and I'm happy to share my 2 cents today about the few things I know on investments in Rwanda. Thank you.
Okay, so today we're focusing on Rwanda and Nigeria. This is very exciting, you guys. So firstly, discussion points, and let's just get into it. Let us start with the specific advantages that Nigeria and Rwanda has to offer to startups considering expansion into both these countries. What are some of the key regulatory compliance requirements and market potentials that each market provides to small businesses and startups, and even international businesses alike? I would, Mr. Oguntunde, you can go first.
Thank you, Zainab. So there are various advantages, right, that Nigeria currently has in encouraging startup expansion into the country, right? But I will like to divide it into two, right, with sub-points, right? And the first will be regulatory advantages, right? As of recent as 2022, the Nigerian government or the Nigerian Assembly, right, passed the Startup Act into law, and it was signed by the president then, right? And this Startup Act sort of welcomes or opens Nigeria up to startup generally, right? And it brought about a few innovations, right? Currently under the Startup Act, right, there's a provision for regulatory sandbox, right? Startups are invited or are encouraged to come into the country, right? And without registering at first into this regulatory sandbox to test, to do live demos, to check the suitability of the country for the product in which they want to introduce into the country, right? Also, the Startup Act provides for tax breaks for these startups, right? Either reduced taxes, or you are exempted from paying taxes for a few period of time, right? Also, it synchronizes the various agencies in Nigeria, right? Such as the CBN, which is the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Security Exchange Commissions, and with our company registry as well in Nigeria, right? There's a startup portal in which you can go on to register, right? And then you are able to communicate with whichever regulators that will be regulating your services or products within the country. Also, under the regulatory advantages, we also have CAMA, which is our Companies and Allied Matters Act, right? Which before the 2020 came into operation, we had the one of 1990, right? 30 years. At some point, it became obsolete, right? And there was a need for a new one. And this new one brings about more flexibilities, right? And in terms of choosing company structures and governance models in which startups, right, can use to run their businesses within the country. Also, we've seen the deletion of having at least 2 members, shareholders or directors in the company, right? So as a startup or as an individual who wants to come and invest in Nigeria, you can come into the country and just yourself without knowing anybody at the moment, except for professionals who are going to assist you with your registration and put you through, provide guidance to you, right? And register on your own, as against having to look for somebody within the country, right, to jointly register and operate in the country, right? Also, CAMA provides for foreign participation in the sense that if you're coming for a particular project, you necessarily don't have to register a company in Nigeria, right? You could just go to the Office of the Presidency, submit a few documents, and get an approval from the Office of the Presidency, come into the country, right? Execute your project and leave, But the thing is, when you come into the country and you see how great the country is, right? In terms of what you can get from Nigeria and what Nigeria can offer you, we end up seeing companies registering and staying behind to run their businesses, offer services to Nigerians generally, right? Also, under the regulatory advantages, we have the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, right, which has an office under it called the One-Stop Shop for Incorporation, right? It's just similar to what we have under the Startup Act, right? Where foreign investors, right, can do everything they have to do, or L registrations, permits, levies. This particular office or agency will provide assistance for you, right? And particularly when you come into the country, aside the OSIC, you are to register with NIPC as an investor so you can enjoy certain incentives, which usually is under falls under taxation, right? If I may try and take us back, right? I know I mentioned the Startup Act, and now we have provides for startups. So it's not just for foreigners, right? The Startup Act binds on foreigners and indigenous companies or startups as well, right? Also, under the Office of the Presidency, there is a particular office which provides funding opportunities, gives out loans, financial support. They run programs year in, year out. It depends on the administration in charge. They have different names for these programs that they run, whereby they give loans and financial support to medium, small enterprises within the country. And earlier I mentioned that I was going to break it down into two, right? And the second part is the market potential Nigeria has. I know it is not new to everybody around the world and Africa that we have a large and growing population, right? A startup can leverage on this, leverage on the population to offer your product and services to us, right? Also, because of this large and growing population, we've seen slight increase in disposable income, right? Which means whatever products you have, right, you can tailor your product to meet the available markets, right? Follow up on this large and growing population is our population is tech savvy, right? Year in, year out, our internet penetration keeps increasing, right? People in the rural areas, maybe not entirely the country, but year in, year out, we have that, right? People have mobile phones, they have phones that are connected to the internet. So it's easier if your products and services, right, are done via the telephone, via the internet, right? So you can easily reach everybody who is connected within the country. And under the market potential as well is to support the Nigerian government, right? Year in, year out, the government rolls out different plans to support entrepreneurship and ensure that there's a development of the ecosystem for startups, most especially this current administration, right? The current Minister of Communication and Digital Economy has been doing a lot in that aspect. And one of the recent ones is the laying of telecommunication infrastructure across the country in terms of broadband, right? Trying to see to the reduction in internet charges across the country. So yeah, I will say for now, right? In order not to take up the whole time, because I still have a lot to say concerning this, right? I mean, for now, these are the things that could attract or a startup who is looking to expand into Nigeria can leverage on, or that can serve as an invite to a startup to come into Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oguntunde. That was very, very insightful. And I heard a few similarities with Nigeria and Rwanda in a way. However, we're gonna just let Miss Mutesi get on with her question, and let's just see what Rwanda has to offer in this regard. Miss Mutesi.
Thank you, Zain. So I won't divide my my answer in any categories. I'll just start by maybe the general and what the government has done to attract investors in the country and to make sure that we're having people bring money into the country. So the government has done so much, from putting up institutional facilities to amending different laws, while also enacting some different laws that are going to be able to accommodate international people to come and invest in our market. So if you look at how the country have decided to do it, they've decided to welcome people looking to do business in Rwanda in 3 broad categories. I'll mention them as: one is Visit Rwanda, the other one is Made in Rwanda, the other one is Start in Rwanda. So Visit in Rwanda, I'm sure people who watch football, who follow football and are football fans, you've seen the Visit Rwanda brand on the Arsenal sleeves in the you've also seen Visit Rwanda in PSG in France. But you see, when you look at all this, the aim is to attract tourism, it's branding, it's also ensuring that we have many all about is tourism, attracting tourism business in the country. Then we have Made in Rwanda. Made in Rwanda is basically about manufacturing goods and services in Rwanda that can be exported. For example, you can look at Volkswagen. It has an assembling plant here. You can look at marathons, which are being made in the country. You can also look at clothes that are made and exported outside the country. You can look at agricultural products that are grown and exported. Then we move to Start in Rwanda. Now, this is basically about innovation. And what it aims is businesses can come in Rwanda, they can start here, and once they have been successful and they've picked up, they can scale to other parts of Africa. This is already happening. For example, in the drone business, the one where they export blood, where they send blood using drones to different parts of the country. It started here and it has been able to expand to other countries. For example, Ghana. It's a live example. Then, and if I move to what has been done law-wise, regulatory-wise, we have seen many laws that have been amended, enacted, and all that. And all these are just to be able to create alternative investment vehicles and business structures that would suit investors' needs. For example, we have the collective investment schemes, we have foundation law, we have the trust law, to mention but a few. And when you move now to specifically startups, you look at the different tax incentives that have been put in place. We have incentives cutting from corporate income tax, going to withholding taxes, going to exports. So depending on the category that you're in and how much you're investing and all that, you're able to benefit from the incentives that have been put in place in order to ease business. Then you look at the investment law in particular, the new one of 2021. It gives, it talks about the incentives that are given to angel investors who invest a maximum of at least $500 in a startup. So these ones are given exemption from capital gains tax once they sell their shares. But of course, there are things they have to fulfill. It's provided the shares were initially purchased as primary equity issuance by the startup. And then the second exemption they have is on withholding tax, which is applicable to dividends paid for at least 5 dividend issuances by the startup. But however, as the saying goes, to whom much is given, much is expected. Even though they're given these incentives, they expect that the investment must remain in the startup for at least 2 years. And if you keep looking at the investment law, you realize that it created more room. It has given a lot of good treatment to investors. For example, it goes on how it talks about how anyone can invest in the country despite of where they're coming from. It also talks about how the investors are treated in the country, and it goes as far as helping in dispute resolution that for the disputes that may arise while they're trying to do their business and setting up. Also, the law also gives us gives us sectors in which which investors can leverage on. It allows them to invest in many areas, but also puts emphasis on the priority economic areas, which include exportation, manufacturing, IT, mining, to mention but a few. And then if you go to institutions, now you look at RDB, which you can hold the EDP, the one for Singapore. So the RDB in Rwanda, what it does, it basically, it's supposed to put Rwanda out there on the market it and everything. But again, once investors come into the country, these are the people that are going to ease your business. That's where all your business solutions will be fine. They will answer all your questions. They will link you to the right contacts, and yeah, they'll help you in getting up and running your business. Then you look at the KIFC, which is it's fairly new, and what it's out here to do is to ensure that Rwanda is being placed on the financial map, and while doing all that, it's attracting investors, it's making laws and ensuring that Rwanda gets to the international level that can attract different people into investing in the country. Yeah, with those very few words then, I hope I've been able to at least answer your question.
Yes, you have, Joanne. Thank you so much to the both of you, Joanne and Olorunjoba. Thanks for that. And I think you guys have really touched on the more sensitive aspects of, starting a business, especially in a new country. Seeing as with the people who are starting these businesses, they're not very familiar with regulation and what they should be complying to, and some of the other important things like tax that they need to know of, and how much tax needs to be paid, what kind of incentives is there for them. So thank you guys for touching on these important notes. So for my next question, I just wanted to know that, in your opinion, which of these two countries, Nigeria and Rwanda, do you think offers a more favorable environment for startups? And what are the key legal considerations that businesses need to be aware of when expanding into either of these two countries? Mr. Olorunjoba, I'm gonna let you go first again.
Hi,
Mr.
Zidane. The first part of your question can be, I'm not sure it's straightforward. You can get a straightforward answer on that, right? Because it will be dependent on your product and your services, and it will be dependent on a few other things, your risk appetite, your market research that you have conducted, right? So I, for one, cannot particularly say Nigeria is better or Rwanda is better, right? I mean, they both have different market audiences. So, I mean, that will be left for the investor, right, to decide. And nothing stops them from investing in both countries in a which way. So, right. On that, I will move on to the second part of your question, right? Which
Okay, sorry to cut you off, but before you do that, since you're saying that it depends on your market research, it depends on what kind of business that you're trying to run, it depends on a whole host of things. In your opinion, what kind of businesses do you think would comparatively thrive in Nigeria as compared to in Rwanda? Just give me like 2 examples.
For one, we'll say people who are coming into, say, the transportation business, right? I feel like the market is still untapped, right? And it would be a good place to do that. Infrastructures are currently being put in place to ensure this, right? We have rail tracks being developed every other day. New roads are being constructed or rehabilitated, right? And we do not have sufficient service provider in this aspect. So for one, I would say maybe the transportation sector. Another will be telecommunications, right? We still have untapped markets, right? Despite year in, year out MTN's growth in Nigeria, there's still a lot of places that are yet to be connected to that to the grid. So yeah, I feel like the telecommunication sector and the transportation sectors will welcome investors into Nigeria at this moment.
Okay, that's very well noted. Thank you very much. So please do go ahead with answering the second part of the question. And if you need me to repeat it, basically the second part I was asking what the legal, what some of the key legal considerations, you know, that businesses need to be aware of when expanding into either of these countries, because you have an experience, you know, coming from Nigeria, going to Rwanda. What are some of these what are some of these things that people or business owners in general need to consider, in your opinion?
Okay. So I mean, there are a lot of them, right? But I will pick on if the general ones, right, that are not sector specific at this moment. And one is for the immigration laws, right? Our immigration law currently provides for business permits and expatriate quotas, right? For investors who wants to come into Nigeria and invest. And there are different types of visas allowable under our law. We have the business visas for short-term businesses, people who want to come for meetings, negotiations. There's also the work visa, right? For people who are coming to work full-time in Nigeria. For people who are coming to work in Nigeria, and also there's a dependent visa, right, for their spouses or people who are going to be depending on them. There's also something called the expatriate quota, right, in which your company can ask to fulfill, right, when you are engaging foreigners to come work in Nigeria. So this is in the sense of, oh, you're coming to establish in Nigeria and you're bringing in foreigners from different parts of the world to work in Nigeria, right? You have to, there's an expatriate quota that's allowable under our immigration laws, right? Just to protect job opportunities for the locals as well, right? There's also the employment law, right? Nigeria has, to a large extent, a comprehensive set of labor law, right? Governing employee rights, say minimum wages, and probably resolving disputes between employer and employees, right? This is just to ensure compliance and possibly avoid legal issues, right? There's also the intellectual property law. You need to register either your trademark, your patent, your copyright, whichever it is, you need to. And Nigeria has a robust law, right? We have different registries that caters to this registration. There's also the taxation, all right? There's the issue of taxation, right? For specific industries, right? Nigeria offers tax holidays. You are exempted from paying tax for a few years, right? Also, there's reduced tax rates for startups. And when you compare to established companies, right, there's reduced tax rates. We also have this initiative, the Pioneer Status Incentive, people who are coming into a new sector, right? And such as we have the emerging technologies right now, right? If you're coming into, say, something emerging technology or something that Nigeria currently does not have infrastructure or capacity in, and you are coming to set up shop in respect to provide services in line, right? There's the Pioneer Status Incentives, we tied back to the one-stop shop investment center I mentioned earlier. They are the one in charge of this. You have to register with NIPC to be able to benefit from this, right? There are regulations surrounding foreign investment in Nigeria, one which I mentioned earlier, covered under CAMA, right? What types of entities you want to register in Nigeria, whether it's partnership, whichever it is that you want to come and register in Nigeria. But we have to take note of something. There are certain sectors in which foreigners may be restricted from investing in. One of them is probably arms and ammunition, right? That you, as a foreigner, you might not, or they may not allow you to invest in this, except you are running this in partnership with a Nigerian, right? And I will circle back to the one I mentioned earlier, which is the Nigerian Startup Act, right? A few countries in Africa have this in place, right? And this is a new law, right? And of recent, we have seen the startup portal come up, right? So yeah, these are some of the legal considerations which bounce generally on everyone who are coming into Nigeria. There are other regulations under the CBN, under the Security Exchange Commission, right? If you are looking to come and establish in Nigeria, or if you are looking at the oil and gas business, right? So there are other regulations, other laws, right? But for the ones that I've mentioned earlier, right? These are the general ones that investors should take note when they're coming to Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was quite a lot, actually. Mr. Oguntunde, we are going to have a conversation afterwards on that, because I feel like we can use a lot of, you know, the adopted new regulations that Nigeria has over here as well, because we're not very different, even though Nigeria is bigger and, you know, with a larger population. But I would say in the west of Africa, we are not all too different, and most common law countries almost always have the same laws because it's derived from the same source. But thank you so much for that very, very insightful and very interesting take on how Nigeria is going about, um, especially, you know, in terms of, you know, the legal and the legal aspect of things, and, you know, regulations that they have adopted for the betterment of the country and the economy and everything else. So, Ms. Joanne Mutesi, I would please take the floor on your opinion, basically, on which country you think offers a more favorable environment for startups, and what the key legal considerations are for businesses to be aware of, basically, when expanding into either of these countries, but, you know, in this case, in Rwanda.
Thank you, Zain. That I am, of course, Rwanda, but just not because of being the patriot, but when we look at what Rwanda has done in the past 30 years post the genocide against the Tutsi, we really see that it's still doing so much more, and we're still trying to ensure that the environment is good for investors, for startups, for businesses in general, because we're trying to develop the country economically. From it flows the welfare of its people and everything. But what I forgot to mention previously is the fact that starting up a business in Rwanda is so easy. It's very easy. And according to the statistics and reports, previously Rwanda has been ranked as the second country in the world with ease of doing business. For example, if you look at business registration in Rwanda, it's done online, and within 6 hours, you register a business, you have your certificate, and you're good to go. You're ready to start and perform the magic that you wanted to perform with your business. Also, When you look at the legal considerations, you have to look at different sectors that, of course, are going to govern your startup, company, stroke, whatever. So you look at, of course, the corporate governance laws, you look at the company law, you look at its obligations and what it requires you to do as a business that is registered, you look at labor laws that will govern your employees, you look at immigration laws that will govern your foreign employees. You also look at specific sector laws depending on the sector that you're in as a business. For example, if you're in IT, you look at the IT laws. If you are in agribusiness, you look at agribusiness related laws. You look at also tax laws, which are very, very important because you must pay your taxes. Otherwise, you won't like it when Rwanda revenue comes for you because it comes really hard. Also, one thing that you should know while you're starting up in Rwanda is that you're going to have to befriend RDB. You'll make countless trips to RDB because it's the place where magic happens in terms of business. And one thing about RDB, it has a one-stop center. And from that one-stop center, you can be able to get each and every information that you need about business and running business in Rwanda, be it from tax, be it like all the way to specific sector laws. They will also inform you of the licenses that you need to apply for, depending on the sector that you're in. Yeah, it makes life really easy in terms of starting up businesses here. I think that's it then, or have I left out anything?
No. I don't think you have actually. I think you've really touched on the crux of the matter with Rwanda, and it's just like you explained. It's just that simple. It's just that simple um to be able to come in and do what you have to do. And you've also touched on what people need to be aware of in the legal requirements perspective, because again, if you're not aware of certain things like tax, for example, Rwanda Revenue Authority, like you said, you don't want them knocking at your door. That's all, complying with the law and whatever other requirements that need to be done. So thank you very much for that. And moving on to one of my favorite questions that I've always wanted to ask, and I think with Joanne, because we've worked together, I've had conversations about this, especially as a foreigner in Rwanda at the time. How do cultural differences between these two countries impact business strategies and operations for international companies? I would really, really love to know that. I know obviously, Olorunjoba, you might have a more of like a wider view of that again, because you were in Nigeria and then you guys expanded to Rwanda. So I'm really looking forward um, to that comparison, because again, like I said, I was there before, and this was one of um this was one of the most important questions that I had, especially for my Rwandan friends, and coming from West Africa, going all the way to East Africa, with because it's such a different country and everything is so vastly different. So this time I'm just going to let Miss Joanne go first. Maybe she can tell us a little bit about her experience, because she has also moved around a little bit, and I am really hoping that you're able to help us kind of understand some of the cultural nuances from Rwanda compared to other places that you may be aware of.
Thank you, Zane. And I'm sure your biggest problem was language. Anyways,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
so
But please go ahead.
Yeah, so if I'm going to talk about the cultural difference, I think I'm going to talk about language because it's the backbone. I mean, if you're not able to communicate, I don't think you go any further. So the biggest challenge would be language because Rwanda is a monolithic nation. It being monolithic means that we speak one language, not necessarily one language, but we all meet on one language, which is Kinyarwanda. That is, you cannot go to any place and speak Kinyarwanda, no one won't understand you, given they are Rwandan and they are resident here. So the biggest is language. However, you'll find some people speak English, some speak French, but it's not as easy as you would go on the street and talk to anyone in English and they will respond to you. It will be a bit difficult. So one thing I would say maybe is that when when companies are moving here or our foreigners are starting up companies here, it would be good that they're also sensitive to such things, and then they ensure that such things as language. So, and then they ensure that they would hire local experts who are going to help them hold their hand and work together. Otherwise, language can frustrate you because like I said, if you're not able to communicate, you're not going to be able to move as you would wish to move because you will say A and the other person will understand B. And while you're still trying to understand each other, you're losing time, and time is money. Yeah, so that's what I can say, Zain. I think the biggest challenge is language. Other things can always be worked.
Yep, that is so true because again, I have experienced it and it is not fun. But I'm going to leave my struggles to the side. Joanne, I have a follow-up question to that, by the way. But I think you've already answered that, so we're not going to go into that again. So Mr. Olorunjoba, what do you have to say about, some of these cultural differences and and what strategies basically you can use to navigate some of these differences effectively?
So thank you for this question. I think cultural differences play a lot in how far your business will go in Nigeria, right? And I think so. There is no general templates to these things, but these are things that we've seen while interacting with different people, both foreigners and both locals, right? And I think one of the things that Nigerians, right, maybe the older generation take very seriously is hierarchy and respect, right? You do not address who you should call Mr. By name, or you do not address who you should call manager, something else, right? Some people, right? A lot of people prefer formal titles and greetings and all of that. So it's best that you study whoever you are dealing with and adapt to their communication style, show respect to them, right? This could be a game changer for you when you are looking for something, right? And I feel another thing in Nigeria is indirect communications, right? When you are meeting with people, you need to look at their body language. Okay, I'm saying this, how is this person responding? You need to be able to read them, right? You need to be able to understand what they are saying when they are not saying anything, right? If you want to get things moving faster in Nigeria, you need to build relationship, right? You need to build relationship across the board, right? Personal relationship, corporate relationship. You need to build this relationship. You need to establish trust. It could be the little difference in you're trying to get something out from, say, government department, and you never can tell who you met at the hotel lobby last week as contacts, right? Who can help you fast track this process. So you need to build relationship. Joan mentioned something about time is money, right? Yeah, time is money, but you need to be able to be flexible with your time in Nigeria, right? Sometimes 2 p.m. might not be 2 p.m. It could be 2:30, it could be 3 o'clock, right? So you need to You need to be able to be flexible with your time, right? You need to exercise patience, especially when you're dealing with the older generations. When you're scheduling appointments, you need to confirm a day before, 1 hour before the meeting, just to ensure you're on the same page with who you're going to meet with, right? Yeah, for language, right? I wouldn't say that's a challenge in Nigeria, right? Because you have almost everybody from every different part of the world, and there's a unifying language, which to a large extent is English, right? And even if you have French people coming to the country, or you have Japanese people coming to the country, there are people who can provide interpretation services, right? Who can serve as bridge between you and the investor or whoever you're having meetings with, right? So yeah, so I wouldn't say language is a cultural or impacts on the cultural this thing in Nigeria, right? Some of the strategies, right? And this will be, I'll be circling back to all these things I mentioned earlier, right? You need to be sensitive to who you are dealing with, right? You probably need to, when you come into Nigeria, undergo a cultural sensitivity training, right? Learn the business etiquette in Nigeria, how we communicate or how people communicate, right? The social norms, right? Some people will tell you that deals are closed behind outside the office, right? So you need to learn all of those things. You need to probably honor invites. People you just met today, you see them extending invites to their marriage, their birthday, whatever they're celebrating in their homes, right? And this is them extending a hand of friendship to you, right? So you need to be able to manage that, right? Also, I would say look at partnership, right? You need to partner with people who are probably in the same industry with you, right? Who can teach you on how to navigate a few things in Nigeria. I also mentioned with time, and now you need to be flexible, right? You need to be flexible in your business approach and business practices in Nigeria, right? And because we probably like to drag things, right? I would say people who are not here for a long term might not get the benefit or say enjoy Nigeria fully, right? But if you have a long-term commitment to Nigeria, I mean, on the long run, you will see the benefit, you will see growth, and you'll probably be able to achieve your aims and objective, right? Communication strategy as well, right? You need to understand um, uh, how to communicate, right? You need, and that stems back to when to use dear sir, when to use Mr., when to use chief, when to use doctor, when to address people by their title. Yeah. So I feel like yeah, those are the cultural differences and approaches that can be adopted, right? To get a good business relationship out of Nigeria, if I may say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And honestly, from what I could get from both you and Joanne is that Rwanda and Nigeria are actually vastly different, especially in the cultural side of things. And I'm actually very much appreciative to hear what you have to say about Nigeria because, like you said, I mean, like I had said before, Nigeria and Gambia are not very different. But then with some of the things that that you are revealing right now, it kind of seems a bit, again, not every country is the same, so there definitely has to be some differences somehow. But thank you both so much for giving us insight into some of your cultural differences and what might actually shock people in these two countries. And for our listeners, please, if you have any questions, put them down in the chat box below, and we will get to that when it's time for the question and answer. And I am seeing that we are actually kind of running over time. And we're not even done with some of the things that we wanted to brush up on today, that we wanted to focus on. So, again, without further ado, I just wanted to ask both our speakers again on some of the preferred entry strategies for companies entering both markets. Like, I just label like give me two strategies each for any company willing to expand into Rwanda and Nigeria, and maybe two challenges and opportunities each that may be associated with each of the approaches that you would mention. Okay, I guess you're waiting for me to point to someone. Mr. Olorunjawara, I guess you can go first, and then Miss Joanne, you can go after him.
Okay. So for one, right, I would think a partnership such as, say, joint venture, right? You partner with a local entity in Nigeria, right? In order to enter the Nigerian market space, yes, I feel like that's one good way to come into Nigeria. The problem, right, could be you have limited control over how things should be done in the country, in the company. Also, you could encounter challenges in finding the partner that will tick all your criteria, right? In terms of skill, resources, manpower, and maybe financially as well, right? Also, you could come through the route of establishing a subsidiary in Nigeria, right? You set up a company in Nigeria fully owned by foreign entity, right? Yeah, that's another way, and we have a few of them in Nigeria currently, right? What are their challenges? It could require a lot of capital initially, right? Also navigating regulations. Yeah, those are the areas in which if foreign investors could face challenges and possibly routes in which they can come into Nigeria. I understand that you have limited us to two. And so, yeah, I would say subsidiary and partnership, joint venture.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Joanne, what do you have to offer us?
Thank you, Zain. It's not far from what the previous speaker said, but I'll start with a subsidiary because I feel like it's much more easier to start up, given that you don't have to look for a partner, to look for different things that you'd otherwise look for while you're trying to do a partnership. Then the second one would be, a second strategy would of course be a partnering through joint ventures, just like he had also mentioned, though of course, the challenges are you being able to identify who you're going to partner with. Let's be real. People sell dreams. Someone can come and pitch to you. You know, they sell dreams to you, but when it gets to the ground, there's nothing. There is nothing on ground. So being able to identify people to partner with would also pose as a challenge. Then for a subsidiary, it's of course money. Otherwise, you have the control. You have a lot of things within your control. You have a lot of things within your area. But of course, the one problem that will happen is money. Yeah, that's me being so brief.
Thank you, Ms. Joanne, for being so brief. So I'm guessing that both countries kind of offer the same thing, and honestly, it sounds like you guys have so much to offer. And honestly, I am going to be emailing both of you actually to to just basically give me more that then you might not be staying here, so that we can put it out there for our listeners and those who might not have been able to join us here be able to access. Because I feel like this is such amazing knowledge and expertise of this subject that a lot more people need to be aware of. And I am so glad to have you both on the panel for today because you're sharing the most amazing gems for us all because there's just so many things my eyes are getting open to and I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. And to my next question, don't worry about it. We are about to close very soon. But then again, I guess for our experts, you guys can go on and on and on about these subjects and not even know where to stop. But I wanted to ask you both about foreign direct investments and how these shape the business landscape in these two countries respectively and what opportunities and challenges they may present. Mr. Oguntunde, do you want to go first?
Hi, Zainab, can you come again, please? I didn't get that.
Right. So I wanted you to touch on foreign direct investments and just basically how they shape the business landscape in Nigeria and what some of the opportunities and challenges they may present.
Okay. Like every other country, Nigeria currently welcomes foreign direct investment. I feel like it's a catalyst for economic growth for anywhere, any country, right? And over time, for every time there's been an FDI in Nigeria, and there's been job creation, we've had technology transfer, right? Also, we get I would say global networks, right? Because when investors come in, bringing their money into the country, right? Not just money, they bring expertise as well, right? And when they bring expertise, they tend to work with Nigerians, right? And these Nigerians are able to learn from these investors what they are bringing on board and able to, in their own personal capacity within the country or within their own interaction or business transactions with Nigerians, are able to use this, what they've learned so far. So right, yeah, FDI, the catalyst for economic growth, right? It will probably also open up a particular sector to competition and efficiency, right? Wherever, say, we have a particular sector in Nigeria that is lagging behind and we have a foreigner coming do things differently. There will probably be a push from the Nigerian counterparts to measure up, right? Which builds healthy competition for the customers, right? The customers on the long run gets to enjoy, and not just the customers, the economy at large gets to benefit from this efficiency that foreign FDI, by virtue of the people who are bringing it, brings to the country, right? Challenges, right? And a notable one, which is not entirely cleared up, is repatriation of profits. In the recent months, Nigeria has been having difficulty in accessing dollars, right? And this has affected a few investors who want to take their profit out of Nigeria, right? And they've not been able to do that, although they've been clearing the CBN and the Nigerian government has been doing everything possible to clear this backlog. And to a large extent, they've chopped down the backlog, right? Yeah, but I feel like those are the challenges, right? Also, in as much as it creates job opportunities, it could also be taking jobs from Nigerians, being that people investors will probably have people who they want to bring in from outside to possibly man executive positions, right? Thereby, Nigerians are denied the opportunity to these positions or to these offices, right? So yeah, in as much as it brings job opportunities, also could lead to job displacement, right? Over time, Nigeria has overly relied on FDI, right? And which has affected us because we've seen a few countries pull off, or a few investors pull out their funds, which Nigeria wasn't prepared for at that particular time, right? Which made a huge impact on the economy, led to fluctuation, leading to inflation, right? So I feel like these are the challenges that FDI pose if not properly managed.
Right. Thank you so much for that insight. Miss Joanne, let's hear what Rwanda, what the Rwanda environment or landscape has in store for us under the topic of FDIs.
Thank you, Zane. So it's good that we realize how important FDIs are for our economic development. It's important to a point that the government has actually gone all out in ensuring that Rwanda is being placed on a global map and being placed as a good investment environment. They have done so much, they've invested so much in order to attract this kind of investments. And the reason is because of the impact they have on the country and its economic development. For example, the job creation that comes with capital inflow, that comes with infrastructure development, comes with industrial development, comes with development across all sectors when you look at it. Another significant advantage is the development in its critical infrastructure, for example, the telecommunications, the energy systems, which are prerequisite for foreign companies. And these developments benefit the broader economy. Everyone gets to benefit from them, not only the investors that are coming in, but even us as the locals, we get to benefit from such. Also, market expansion and diversification, they are key benefits of FDIs. And by integrating local businesses into global supply chains, FDIs, they open up new markets for Rwandan products and services. With this integration, FDIs contribute to the diversification of the economy by investing in various sectors beyond traditional industries like agriculture. Yeah, I think that's what I have to say. Otherwise, everything else just the same as the previous speaker talked about. The challenges posed are the same, and also the advantages are more like the same.
All right, thanks. So I guess both countries are similar in that regard. And honestly, I want you guys to say something fun. I want to hear about success stories, because I think we've been talking about a lot of challenges and what might or might not happen in certain situations or in certain under certain conditions and yada yada. I want to hear about success stories, because who doesn't want to hear about success stories? I want to know, like, countries, or I want to know um, international companies who have been successful, very successful, that non-conventional too, that has expanded into either Rwanda or Nigeria, or even both in this case. And, basically some of the key lessons that have been learned from them, and the best practices that they have used in navigating these markets. Because I feel like with your expertise in an area like this, people don't only want to hear about what may or may not stop them from being successful. People want to hear stories from those who have been successful, who have made it in different industries, and are thriving basically in these two countries. Because I also love to hear about these things, because it's like the way people say it, life be lifing. But I don't only need life to life. I also need life to be full of joy and money, and a full pocket or a full bank account, which one of these could be in this instance, again, because success equal, obviously you're doing well, and obviously financially as well as economically and everything else. Miss Joanne, please give us a few examples of these happy stories, because I think we have been gloomy enough for today.
Why are you gloomy? But anyway, so the in the interest of time, I could mention so many, talk about them, but in the interest of time, I'll just talk about Volkswagen and Heineken. We also have like different chains of hotels that have opened up in Rwanda, international hotels, for example, the Marriott, Four Points, and all that. But particularly, I'm going to talk about Volkswagen and Heineken in the interest of time. So Volkswagen, it established its assembly plant in 2019, making Rwanda the first country in the sub-Saharan Africa to host a Volkswagen plant. And they have made tailored products and services to meet the local consumer demands. For example, in Rwanda, we don't have Uber, but we have something that looks like Uber, thanks to Volkswagen. We have Move. It operates as Uber, but it's not Uber, but it's like Uber, and it's by Volkswagen. Then we'll also talk about Heineken, which has made itself the leading beverage player in the beverage industry, not just in Rwanda, but internationally, as we all know. They focused on deep market penetration by investing in local production facilities and extensive distribution networks, ensuring product availability across the country. And through all this, they've ensured to maintain the global standard, while incorporating the local cultural elements to enhance their customer experience. Yeah, I'll just talk about those two in the interest of time. I could talk about even Marriott and all those, but I'll just talk about those two. Thank you, Zain.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And Mr. Olorunjoba, please give us a little bit of an insight on the Nigerian market and some of those international businesses who have expanded and are now enjoying success.
Thank you, Zainab. Right. So I'm going to tie my answer back to one of the questions you asked me about which sectors in which investors can come into right now. And I remember mentioning transportation and telecommunication, right? So I'm just going to limit my answers to these particular sectors. We have MTN in Nigeria, and they've been here for over 10, 15 years, right? And year in, year out, after the initial teething stage, right, they keep recording profit year in, year out. They are so embedded in the Nigerian system, right, that by the time you count 5 Nigerians, right, at least 3 of them have something to do with MTN, ranging from either an MTN SIM or they have an MTN mobile money. They're subscribed to MTN's mobile money services, right? So MTN to if I can say to a large extent is successful in Nigeria, right? They embedded themselves into the Nigerian sector. They sponsor events, and they've built strong relationships. They are readily available to jump on any course that will see to the growth of Nigeria. So, right, yeah. And I feel like because of that, they have a mutual relationship with Nigerian citizens where you do this for us, we patronize you, and which has been going on for a while, right? And I think they are here for a long time. I don't see them leaving anytime soon. We also have Uber in the transportation system, right? They currently operate in most of the cities in Nigeria, right? Day in, day out. I'm not aware of their financials in Nigeria, but they've been around for a while, and we've seen a few companies shut down, not being able to compete with them, right? I will also say they've embedded themselves in the system, they understand the market, right? So they're able to tailor their product to the Nigerian market, which has kept them in the market. In the past 3-4 years, also Stripe has come into Nigeria through the acquisition of Paystack. I will see that they identified a gap in the existing market, and instead of coming to register or set up, right, that's one of the things we've earlier mentioned, right? They went on full acquisition, bought Paystack over, right? Yeah, so I said I was going to mention two, but I think we have three now. And there's MTN, there's Uber, there's Stripe operating through Paystack in Nigeria.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Oguntinde, Ms. Joanne Mutesi. You both have been such a gem today, and I really, really appreciate you and you taking your time out to be able to share your wealth of knowledge with us today. I would like to open the floor for questions. If any of you has a question, please feel free to put it down in the chat box below. We are going to allow only 4 questions. So if anybody has anything to ask, or if you need clarification on anything, please put it down on the chat box below. Mr. Olorunjoba, Ms. Joanne Machesi, thank you guys so much for sharing, for sharing with us your time and your expertise today. It's really, really much appreciated. So, who has a question? Please put your question down in the chat box below. I am pretty sure that some of you guys should ask a few questions, because they really have not, even though they've tried, they really have not gotten into, I would say, everything they wanted to, because obviously with the interest of time. But I have a question to you both while we give our attendees time to think about what they want to ask, to both Miss Mutesi and Olorunjoba. So basically, I just want you both to touch on your political, basically the political stability of both countries, and how that affects investors from navigating both markets, from navigating the Rwandan market or navigating the Nigerian market, because I do understand that, again, like you guys have explained, both markets are very, very different. So I just want to know basically how the political the political state plays into all of this, and what change do you think needs to be made, if there's any need, what change do you think needs to be made in order to basically attract more investors into your respective country? Mr. Oguntende, you can go first, and then Ms. Joanne, you can go next after him.
So politically, right, Nigeria recently celebrated 25 years of interrupted democracy in Nigeria. And which means in 25 years, we've not been interrupted by military rule, right? Which is a great deal. And if we pick up from the first administration then till now, they have all tried to build on each other's success, although we've seen some lapses, maybe as a result of global economy, maybe as a result of recession. But year in, year out, each administration is to the best of their capacity, right, has tried to ensure that they are business oriented. The last administration before the current one was known, right, or projected a phase of ease of doing business, right? And under them, we had the Business Facilitation Act. Under them, we had CARAS, the Companies and Allied Matters Act, which was in place for over 30 years, repealed, and a new one signed. We also, under them, we had the Startup Act as well, right? To a large extent, this shows their readiness to support businesses to make the country conducive for businesses to come in, right? And for current or businesses that are established so that they can thrive, right? There are challenges, right? But each administration is doing their best, right? To ensure that things move as good as they should. The current administration, in terms of infrastructure, they are doing their best. Might not be, they could do better, but I would say, given the resources at hand, given the current global economy, they are ensuring that things are put in place. For example, rail tracks are being laid, like I mentioned earlier, and we also have the current Minister of Communications and Digital Economy seeing to it that we have a reduced price for internet charges in Nigeria, right? We also have Minister of Interior ensuring that the immigration processes are smoothened out and to ensure ease of going in and out for legal people in the country, right? There are challenges, right? But I'm sure that with support and getting the right set of people in, we can surmount these challenges and set ourselves as a conducive environment for investors to come into.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Joanne. We have 3 minutes to go, by the way. So in the interest of time, Ms. Joanne, what do you have to say to that?
So what I have to say is that the political environment in Rwanda is very stable. Rwanda has opportunities. What is missing is capital, and we are calling upon investors to come and invest. And in the famous words of the CEO of the KIFC, he says that Rwanda has built a nest, the investors have the birds, and we encourage them to come and hatch in Rwanda, which is the capital that we need. That's what I have to say, Zain. Thank you.
Well, that's great. That's good. Thank you very much. I wish I had the capital. That definitely would bring me to, hatch what I have to hatch in the country. But thank you very much for that. And I see that nobody is asking any questions, and I would assume that that is because everyone maybe has gotten what it is that they need. So thank you everyone for being here today, taking your time off of work, because we all know your time is very precious. Thank you so much for being here. To our speakers, Mr. Olorunjoba Oguntunde, Ms. Joanne Mutesi, thank you very much. Tech Hive Advisory, as well as CM Advocates Rwanda. It was a fantastic time sharing my 2 hours with you guys, and I have learned a lot, and I hope everyone on this here webinar has also learned as much as I have. Thank you so much. And if you wanted to reach out to any of us, please reach out to us on LinkedIn on CM Advocates Rwanda or Tech Hive Advisory Africa, and you would see all the people working underneath those two companies. So without further ado, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful weekend. Bye.